Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Delon D'Souza. Coming up on the show this week. Rights groups up in arms after India implements a contentious Citizenship Amendment Act ahead of upcoming general elections which kick off on the 19th of April. Asian fast fashion retailers in the crosshairs of French lawmakers. A new bill seeks to penalize companies for their negative environmental impact. And Chinese breakdancers hope to make a splash at the upcoming Olympics in Paris. Our reporter in Beijing sits down with the French coach getting China's national team in shape. But first, election officials in New Delhi have announced a date for this year's general election. The vote, which begins on the 19th of April, will be conducted in 7 phases, with results announced on the 4th of June. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is looking to secure a third term in office and cement his grip on power. Now, ahead of the vote, India is shrugging off concerns from Washington after the U.S. State Department said it will closely monitor the implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act. The CAA, as it's commonly known, fast-tracks citizenship for illegal migrants from neighboring countries, provided they're not Muslim.
Muslims in New Delhi have gathered here to break their fast. As the holy month of Ramadan gets underway, the implementation of a controversial law has cast a shadow over the community. The legislation offers citizenship to religious minorities from neighboring countries, but not to Muslims.
As per my opinion, it is not right, because basically you are not including the Muslim community.
India is like that. Here we have a Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, even Christians as well. I want everyone to be like equal.
Protests have been erupting across India since the announcement was made. The government is implementing the Citizenship Amendment Act passed back in 2019, which provides a fast track to naturalization for Hindus, Parsis, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains and Christians who fled to India from Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan before the end of 2014. And though the news was welcomed by those included, critics say the law is anti-Muslim and violates the secular principles enshrined in the Constitution. The government argues the law aims to give sanctuary to people fleeing religious persecution.
The word is very important. Those who came to India due to religious persecution were our citizens. The aim of this law is only to give them citizenship, not to take away the citizenship of others. I don't understand why the opposition is protesting.
Opponents of the law say faith cannot be made a condition of citizenship. Many fear it's part of a nationalist agenda that threatens to target Muslims and move the country closer to a Hindu nation.
French lawmakers approved a bill to slap fines on fast fashion retailers. The text calls for gradually increasing penalties of up to €10 per garment by 2030. The bill will next head to the Senate before becoming law. The measure effectively taking aim at fast fashion Asian retailers like Shein and Temu. For more on this story, we can bring in Chloe Dupuis. Great to see you. How do these e-commerce giants manage to sell clothes for so cheap?
Well, we are hearing a lot about these Asian marketplaces like Shein and Temu, but there are actually many upcoming startups that are using the same business models as these two giants. Temu, for example, is like a faster, cheaper version of Amazon, and it's spread from China to around 50 countries in less than 2 years of being in operation. Shein uses AI and algorithms to detect the latest trends, which means that it can come up with an estimated 7,000 new items every day. And that changes our buying habits. It encourages overconsumption. And remember, during COVID, everybody was bored, everybody was stuck at home.
Online.
Right, a lot of
Shopping.
people turned to online shopping. Check out these videos, I'm sure that you'll remember this trend.
Measurements was in the 6. I'd like a side of the pickle. I just got Morty and Rick.
Now, the average consumer is now buying 60% more clothes than 15 years ago, according to Greenpeace. And the problem is that with such cheap clothes, there is an environmental and social cost. With T-shirts at €2, dresses at €7. Shein, for example, works with thousands of suppliers in China, and they've been accused of forced labor with extremely low salaries and horrible working conditions. Shein denies all this. But roughly 2 years ago, a Chinese online publication carried out an investigation in southern China, and they found out that Shein suppliers actually subcontracted some of their orders with smaller workshops in rundown buildings to cut costs. And because these workshops don't have direct access to Shein, the company has no way of finding out the true working conditions there.
Now, of course, one of the things that the French lawmakers allege is that these Asian brands have effectively killed off homegrown competition here in France and led to job losses.
Right, and that's not all. The environmental impact is huge. Shein's closing reportedly contributes to up to 22% of CO2 emissions among French teenagers. How? Well, shipping all the way from China. Secondly, manufacturing synthetic clothes, nylon, acrylic, polyester, all this is made from fossil fuels. And thirdly, these clothes are discarded relatively quickly because the quality isn't great or because it runs out of fashion. And so whilst they rot and sit in a desert somewhere or in a dumpster, the toxic products then infiltrate our soil and our water systems.
So how are Asian retailers going to be impacted once this law goes into effect?
Well, these brands will have to pay a tax on each low-cost items that they sell online, and their advertising will essentially be banned. Now, Marion Bouchou, who is the head of PR for Shein France, she argues that these measures would actually punish the poor. She says that one of the reasons why Shein's clothes are so cheap is because they hardly have any stock. She says that Shein launches production according to the number of clicks that they get online. And so she says that Shein only has up to 7% of unsold items, which according to her is not fast-track fashion, but smart fashion. Nonetheless, Shein will be impacted by those measures. And the French Minister for the transition, the ecology transition, was very fast and very quick to tweet these news. But check out his post, his tweet right underneath. Ironically, there was an advert from Shein that popped up on my screen.
There's algorithms know everything. Oh, thank you very much for that. Now, in other news, the Asia-Pacific region is grappling with an increasingly bellicose China. Around Taiwan and in the South China Sea, tensions are escalating with Chinese fighter jets, collisions between ships and the militarization of reefs. This week, France 24 Reporters Plus takes you to Japan, China and the Philippines, where there's a new Cold War that's brewing. Here's an extract from the show.
By visiting waters also claimed by Vietnam, these patriotic Chinese tourists are driving home the message that the South China Sea belongs to China. Their first stop is an island Chinese forces are turning into a base. Occupying soldiers have built military facilities on several reefs in the area in recent years. They've constructed landing strips, barracks and monitoring posts. The cost of the cruise starts at €850 per person for a 4-day trip. Only Chinese citizens can join the tour and must pass a pre-departure test of loyalty to the regime in Beijing. 13 hours after leaving southern China, the tourists reach this uninhabited sandbank. The tiny island of Xuanfu is a slice of paradise surrounded by turquoise seas.
Shisha is part of China. It's the sacred land of China. We won't allow invaders to take even one grain of sand or drop of seawater. Now please raise your right fist. Swear after me, I love my motherland. I love the Shisha Islands.
The final stop is an island with just a few dozen residents, all of them Chinese. The government pays them €6 a day to live here in the middle of the South China Sea.
This island belongs to China. There's no controversy. That's why we're here. We love our country. We also love swimming, and we want to swim in the Shisha Islands.
An army in flip-flops and bathing suits.
Countries like France, Japan and the United States have historically dominated dance in international competitions. Now, though, there's a newcomer in town. Chinese B-boys and B-girls are winning more and more trophies, and they're hoping to make a splash in Paris 2024. The head coach of the Chinese team, incidentally, a former world champion from France. Yena Li filed this report from Beijing.
Footwork, flow and freezes that set him apart from the crowd. X-Rain is in a league of his own. He trains 6 days a week, at least 6 hours a day, in the hopes of qualifying for this year's Summer Olympics.
After breakfast, we warm up. Then we start special training, which is about focusing on our own movements, building on the dance as our coach taught us. Mostly working on expressing our own musicality.
Training him is a 13-time world champion from France.
It's nice, but the thing is that you keep your hips too low.
This is a very young team with no experience. We're really starting from scratch. So the challenge were huge, but this is actually what excites me.
5 and 6 and 7 and 8. This is China's first national breaking team, put together last year ahead of the dance sport's debut at the Games. So far, one member has already qualified for Paris 2024, Asian Games gold medalist B-Girl 671.
We'll display Chinese elements, Chinese style on the stage at the French Olympics. Stay tuned.
The next opportunity to take part in this historic battle will be at the international qualifiers in Shanghai next May.
Now, locals in the western Japanese city of Fukuyama have been told not to touch a missing cat. This after it fell into a vat containing the dangerous chemical hexavalent chromium. CCTV footage from the premises captured the cat running off into the night. City officials have informed locals to avoid touching the animal and to inform police immediately if they come into contact with this so-called toxic cat. That's it for this edition of Access Asia. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.